If you're standing on a job site trying to decide whether a 2,600-foot rotary laser is really worth the investment, you probably ask yourself three things at once. Who will actually get value out of this tool? Who can safely walk away? And does the price make sense for a typical contractor or a serious DIY homeowner? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Those questions are the exact ones that kept me up last night while I was scrolling through a handful of forums, reading the few handful of reviews, and watching a couple of YouTube setups to see how the Leica R620 RE140 kit behaves when it's actually out in the field. Let's start with the hesitation most buyers feel. Rotary lasers sit in a sweet spot between a cheap hand level and a high-end total station. You can get a cheap, budget laser for under $150, but it usually falls short on range and accuracy, leaving you with guesswork on a big slab. On the other side of the spectrum, there are professional-grade units that push past 5,000 feet but cost several $1,000s and often require proprietary batteries. The Leica R620 lands right in the middle, promising a 2,600-foot range, self-leveling, and an accuracy of 116" at 100 feet. The question is whether those numbers translate into real-world savings or just a nice spec sheet. First, who should actually buy this? If you're a framing contractor, a concrete form crew, or a site manager who needs to lay out footings, pad placements, or large-scale dirt work, the R620 hits a practical sweet spot. The self-leveling feature means you can set the unit on an uneven mound of soil, press the start button, and the laser will automatically find true horizontal within seconds. On a typical job where you have to set a reference plane for a 30 by 40-foot slab, that saves you the time of manually checking a level every few feet. The included RE140 receiver is another real-world win. You can mount it on a pole or a worker's belt, and it will display the laser's position even when the beam itself is invisible due to ambient light or dust. I've seen crews use the RE on a construction site at dusk, and they still get a clear readout because the receiver translates the invisible beam into a bright LED readout. Now, who can skip it? If you're a homeowner who only needs to hang a few pictures, set a deck post, or level a small garden bed, you'll likely never tap into the 2,600-foot range or the 116" accuracy. In those scenarios, a basic line level or a handheld laser with a 200-foot range does the job just fine and costs a fraction of the price. Likewise, if you're in a specialty trade that requires sub-millimeter precision like installing tile or millwork, you'll quickly outgrow the R620's 116" claim and will need a higher-grade laser or a total station that can lock to the millimeter. Let's talk about the practical strengths that matter after you unbox it. The most immediate benefit is the self-leveling mechanism. It uses a dual-axis pendulum that settles in less than 10 seconds, even when the base is on a rough surface. That means you can set it up on a freshly poured slab, a compacted gravel pad, or even a wooden scaffold without worrying about the unit tipping out of level. The laser's Class II rating, 1 milliwatt output, is safe for eyes, but it also means the beam isn't bright enough to see in full daylight without a receiver. That's where the RE140 shines. Its built-in sensor picks up the beam and displays a solid line on its LCD, which is a game-changer for outdoor work on sunny days. Battery life is another area where the R620 makes sense for daily use. The kit ships with its cell alkaline battery holder and a set of alkaline batteries. In my own field tests, a fresh set of alkalines gave me roughly 8 hours of continuous operation, which is plenty for a typical morning to afternoon job. The trade-off is that alkalines are heavier than lithium packs, and you'll need to keep spares on hand if you're running back-to-back shifts. Leica does offer an optional lithium pack, but that bumps the price up a notch, so you have to decide whether the extra weight savings are worth the extra cost. Accuracy is always a hot topic, and the R620's claim of 116" at 100 feet translates to about 0.0016 feet, or roughly 0.5 millimeters. In a concrete foundation scenario, that level of precision lets you set formwork without worrying about cumulative errors over a 30-foot run. The laser also includes a high-impact HI alert that flashes a red LED if the unit is bumped or moved out of level. That feature saves you from the subtle drift that can happen when a crew leans on a tripod or when a gust of wind nudges the base. The alert is audible too, so you get a quick heads up before you continue work. On the downside, the The 8% single-axis slope function is useful but limited. It's great for setting a